Hey, this is Ryan at xcannabis.com. Today is March 29th, 2013. Market is going crazy with Bitcoin. I'm telling you, all these European countries, recently Cyprus, we've seen Spain and Greece and even Ireland going through some crises. Iceland just put out warrants to arrest the bankers who screwed their system over. The United States just rewards them, gives them more money. Obama keeps throwing stuff at them money-wise, benefit-wise, rather than arresting the deceitful thieves. We just reward them. Obama just appointed, was it Michael Tyler, I believe? I don't know what his last name is. The former VP of Monsanto and a lobbyist for Monsanto. We just appointed him to the FDA. And then he passed the Monsanto Protection Act, which says that GMO companies can't be stopped from planting their crops, even despite a injunction or litigation. Basically, the Monsanto Protection Act, it doesn't apply to heirloom seeds, because even if there's litigation over, one company or another, heirloom seeds, aren't patented in a way that they would be forbidden to be planted. So they're just talking about GMO crops, and Monsanto gets appointed to the FDA, and then Monsanto gets a bill in Congress to protect them through one of these appropriation bills, but nonetheless it had language in there to protect Monsanto. I can't believe these people voted for Obama. I mean, after seeing what he's done to the national debt, after seeing what he did with the NDAA and indefinite detention of American citizens, seeing what he's done with cannabis and the exponential arrests compared to George Bush under Obama. Obama's talking about decriminalizing it before he gets elected, and after he gets elected, he's harder on cannabis people than even George W. Bush was, if you can believe that. Not just a slight bit, I mean, exponentially. It's crazy. I just recently had a question for people. I know everybody likes Obama, the liberal friends that I got. They love him, absolutely love him. Voted him in twice. I watched during the election. Some of the people are on my Facebook who are now, criticizing him for the Monsanto thing, but, ignored all the other stuff that he's done before and elected him again and promoted him during the election. Russ Belville and so many others out there that just love Obama. I ask this question, because I often get these comments about how easy it is to be Republican and how conservatives have it so easy, and, oh my gosh, it's just about greed and selfishness. Let me ask you this, which path is more easier? I posted this on my Facebook recently, but let me ask you which path is more easier. We'll do two different demonstrations. Number one, where, you support an ideal that everybody gets a trophy just for playing. If you have hard times, the government's going to bail you out, whether you're a business or whether you're an individual. There's plenty of welfare from the government. Everybody should get bailed out. And if you get discriminated against, the government should come in and kick somebody's ass for you. That's one ideal that I deal with quite often. And then the other ideal is that everybody is responsible for themselves. If you make a bad decision, you're responsible to fix it. If you have hard times, you ask for charity, but not from the government. There should be no mandated charity. There should be no forced wealth redistribution. You ask charity, you ask a friend, you ask a neighbor, you ask a family member if you need help. But the government shouldn't be there as an automatic enforcer of charity. And if you want to get ahead, you have to work hard for it. You can't just get a government subsidy, like a lot of these banks and a lot of Obama's friends. You can't just put your hand out to the government and say, help me out. Those are the two ideals that I see. And of course, the government shouldn't protect anybody exclusively above and beyond anybody else. If you get discriminated against, just think about the other people that came before you that got discriminated against, the Irish, the blacks, the Chinese, the Mexicans, whatever. They only recently did blacks start getting laws to specifically protect them, like hate crime laws and things like that. But they pulled themselves up and out of slavery and discrimination through the free market. I mean, you see Frederick Douglass in the mid 1800s freed himself from slavery, became a statesman, acquired great wealth, even during the time of slavery, while there were still slaves, while it was still legal to have slaves, and he pulled himself out. You look at what happened with Marcus Garvey and the UNIA. They used the free market to build the Black Star Line and empower black people in business. Irish did the same thing. If people were getting killed or whatever, they took appropriate internal measures to combat that. The Irish, the blacks, all of them did that. There was no special, hey, if you hurt a Irishman, you're going to go to jail for twice as long. There was none of those laws. Even during the time that Irish people were treated like dogs and were indentured servants, and then I also spoke about, what was his name? The first slave owner in America. He was black. His name was Anthony. What was it? Oh gosh, I can't remember his name. But anyway, the absolute fact of the matter is that it wasn't whites that brought slaves here to begin with. It was a black man who was the first slave owner in this country. But nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about how, blacks are somehow responsible for slavery. Well, hell, who sold the slave owners, the slaves in the first place? As far as the African slaves, black African tribe members of a competing tribe would go over, capture another tribe, enslave them, and sell them on the market. This was a black thing. Slavery didn't start out as a white thing, not an African slave industry. That was not created by white people. That was created by black people. So I hear all these complaints from liberals about conservatives, but I think that it's easier to, be a liberal, especially socially, and say everybody gets a trophy, everybody gets helped out, no matter what, the government's going to be there, nobody's going to fail, everybody's going to be supported by the government. I think that's a much easier way socially to be than it is to say, hey, you accept responsibility entirely for yourself. Because that's harder. That's a harder path. The path of least resistance is liberalism. The path that is difficult and takes work and effort is conservatism. Now, I'm not talking about neocons, and I'm not talking about classic liberalism. When I compare these things, classic liberalism is a good thing. I am absolutely in favor of classic liberalism. But this new style of liberalism is disgusting. This new style, this neocon style of conservatism is disgusting. What I'm talking about is libertarianism. What I'm talking about is volunteerism. What I'm talking about is, less government, less state, and more personal accountability. Now, of course, I'm not going to be everybody's favorite person to, listen to when I'm saying, hey, if you've messed up your life, you need to fix it. The government shouldn't step in and fix it for you. That's not going to be something that people are going to want to hear. I hear all kinds of crap about me that's just bullshit. This just doesn't make any sense and doesn't have any truth to it. But I understand why. People want to, just like they do with, all these little Facebook memes and all this political bantering and pundency on TV. They take things like this Monsanto Protection Act, and they're like, oh, that was the GOP. I seen this on Dave Bilsland's profile recently. He said, don't blame Obama for the Monsanto Protection Act. Blame the GOP, because they are the ones that pushed this through to Obama and, the appropriations bill. And it was them that did that. And, what is the fact of the matter is that more Republicans than Democrats voted against that Monsanto Protection Act. Obama himself signed it into law. And Obama is the one who appointed the former VP of Monsanto to the FDA. This was all Obama, but the liberals tried to turn it around and be like, oh yeah, well look what happened here. This was all the conservatives that did this. It wasn't any of the Democrats' fault. Don't blame the Democrats, blame the GOP. Well, the GOP, for the most part, voted against it, so I don't know how you can blame them, but that's how they twist things, and I get that stuff all the time sent my way. Marcus Garvey, back in the 30s, when he was forming the UNIA and building a capitalist front for the Black Power movement, They had all kinds of things. They were telling everybody that Marcus Garvey was a racist because he went to meet with the Ku Klux Klan. You know, these black leaders that opposed Marcus Garvey used to say, oh, well, because he was friendly with the Ku Klux Klan and invited them to speak at his meetings, well, he's a racist against black people. Marcus Garvey, a racist, you know, can you believe that they would even say that? That's what they said, though. And yeah, sure, Marcus Garvey, you know, diplomatically went and met with the Ku Klux Klan and had them speak at his meetings and tried to bridge a gap between the differences there and tried to create unity. But he was, you know, absolutely chastised for it by some of his own people, and lied about, and you know, the truth of the matter was distorted so greatly. And it was infused mostly by the FBI. I mean, J. Edgar Hoover, you know, set up a special division specifically to disassemble Marcus Garvey's UNIA movement. And so they spread false information and sabotaged his businesses and did all kinds of things. Well, I get that too. I don't know if it's coming from the FBI or whether it's coming from just a bunch of liberal, you know, whiners who want freebies. I don't know what the deal is, but I know that it's out there. I've heard the crap about me. You know, a lot of my family's on welfare or some sort of government assistance, and they don't like me talking about this, so I hear a lot of crap from them too. But I've chosen the path that for me is more rewarding, even though it takes more work, even though it takes more effort and it's not as popular. I've chosen that path, and I try to illustrate that path so that, you know, I can demonstrate personal accountability and not only just preach it, but actually live it, you know, and you know, I pulled myself off the streets. I made myself better, and you know, I was a homeless guy, and I became somebody that, you know, was independently wealthy and independently employed, and I've had businesses and I've done well, and, you know, and I like to talk about, you know, the ability of somebody who had nothing, who had no, you know, leg up in the world, who had no wealth and no family wealth and no, you know, silver spoon in my mouth, who went from, you know, rags to not quite riches, but definitely comfort. You know, I'm comfortable. You know, I'm good. I'm happy. Financially, I'm taken care of. And I did that myself. And I think that anybody can do that if they put the effort behind it and stop depending on the government. You know, and I see these people who are disabled, and I feel bad for them, and absolutely that sucks that, you know, whatever their cause is for being disabled, sucks that they have that disadvantage. But, you know, I look at people like Stephen Hawking, right? I look at, you know, I've seen this guy the other day. He was in a wheelchair down by the freeway selling oranges. You know, I see people selling on eBay. I see people giving technical support from home via websites like Ingenio.com or Keen.com, Keen.com, or psychic readings or any of these other things. You know, but when people are like, well, I just can't find a job, there's nothing I can do, I'm disabled. There's a whole shitload of things people can do if you're disabled. There's a whole shitload of things people can do. And if people like Stephen Hawking can do it in such a, you know, magnificent way, anybody else can, as far as I'm concerned. I understand, you know, compassion, and I try to be compassionate, but, you know, you have to draw a line somewhere. You know, this country is failing right now. Everybody's, you know, worried about the economic this and the economic that. Well, yeah, let's worry about that, but let's not just worry. Let's do something about it. That's my point. Anyway, let's end this bullshit entitlement system. You know, let's start being accountable. You know, helping each other. If you have any questions about what I've mentioned, like Ingenio.com or Keen.com and how to get started with that, or Bitcoin, that's another thing. You know, I kept telling all these people in Sensible Washington and these initiative drives, Measure 80, I told Jennifer Alexander, I said, hey, you know, there's sitting incumbents in Congress that are accepting Bitcoin for their campaigns. WordPress.com is accepting Bitcoin for payment. There's so many different, you know, mainstream companies and people that are accepting Bitcoin. Max Kaiser of the Kaiser Report. Okay, this was, you know, for the last couple of years I've been saying that, since 2011, when Bitcoin was like $6 a Bitcoin, $6 US a Bitcoin was their value back in 2011 when I started saying this. And, you know, in 2013, at this very day, Bitcoin is worth almost $100 US each. So one Bitcoin is equal to $100 US in the Bitcoin market. Now, what if people would have started accepting donations? What if people would have started investing in Bitcoin when I said invest in it and you know, take heed to my warnings about Bitcoin when it was $6? You know, they would have had a 12-fold increase in their investment right now, and they would be wealthy. I mean, there would be a small portion of wealth in their pocket. Right now, they would have access to a certain amount of wealth, whatever they decided to invest. And it's not just a small gain. Like I said, that's 1,200% gain in just less than a year. Because like in 2012 at this time of year, it was only $9.50 a Bitcoin. Each $9.50 US dollars per Bitcoin a year ago at this point. And so even at that, it's a 1,000% increase. And people decided not to listen to me. Well, that's fine. That's fine. But, you know, don't say I'm not trying to help, because I am. I mean, I could have kept that information to myself. I could have said, hey, you know, don't, you know, go ahead and do your thing, and I've got my thing. And, you know, I could have just separated myself and not given any of the benefit to the rest of the community. But I warned people all the time, regularly, weekly. I'd post about Bitcoin. I'd post commodity reports saying, hey, Bitcoin's doing this, Bitcoin's doing that. Very few people listen to me, you know. So, you know, don't blame me when, you know, you have problems financially. I've done what I can. I can't fix everybody's financial solutions. All I can do is give advice. But what if people were listening to my advice? Well, they'd have a little bit more money in their pocket right now, wouldn't they? This is Ryan from xCannabis.com. Peace out.